The year was 2157, and humanity had finally done it. After decades of research and countless failures, they had cracked faster than light travel. The discovery came at the perfect time. Just 3 months after the first successful FTL jump, massive ships appeared above Earth. They were not hostile. They were curious. The Galactic Council had been watching humanity for centuries, waiting for them to develop the right technology. Now that humans could travel between stars, they were invited to join. Earth's leaders were excited and terrified at the same time. They learned they were the youngest species in a galaxy filled with 47 advanced civilizations. Some had been exploring space for thousands of years. Ambassador Chen stood in the council chambers for the first time. The room was enormous, filled with beings of every shape and size. There were creatures made of crystal who communicated through light. Others resembled giant insects with minds sharper than any computer. A few looked almost human, which somehow made them more unsettling. Chen tried to hide his nervousness as he prepared Earth's introduction speech. Back home, billions of people watched the broadcast. Children pressed their faces against screens dreaming of alien worlds. Scientists analyzed every detail of the alien technology they could see. Military leaders worried about threats they couldn't yet understand. Everyone agreed on one thing: humanity's place in the universe had changed forever. The ceremony was going well. Chen had delivered his speech without major mistakes. Several council members had welcomed Earth with what seemed like genuine warmth. Then the alarms started. At first, nobody understood what was happening. The council's monitoring system showed a massive energy surge coming from Earth's solar system. The readings made no sense. The energy output was larger than anything the council had seen from a natural phenomenon. Within minutes, the surge grew stronger. Chen's communication device lit up with urgent messages from Earth. Scientists were detecting something near the sun. An object, or maybe a field of energy, was expanding rapidly. Then came the last message Earth would send. "We've found something buried under the Antarctic ice. It's technology, but not ours. Not human. We've activated it by accident. Initiating Protocol Exodus." The transmission cut off. The Council's long-range sensors showed the impossible happening in real time. Earth began to shimmer like heat waves on a desert road. Then the Moon, then Mars, Jupiter, and all the planets. The effect spread through the entire solar system in waves. Ships that were near Earth sent panicked messages, then vanished mid-sentence. Within 6 hours, the Sol system was gone. No debris, no explosion, no trace. Just empty space where a star and 8 planets used to be. Ambassador Chen collapsed in the council chambers. Around him, alien beings stood in shocked silence. Search and rescue fleets were dispatched immediately. But they found nothing. The space where Earth had been was completely empty. Not even dust remained. The investigation lasted for months. The galaxy's best scientists came to study the phenomenon. They found energy residue that matched nothing in their databases. The pattern suggested dimensional manipulation, but on a scale nobody thought possible. Some theorized Earth had been destroyed instantly. Others believed the entire solar system had been moved somewhere else. A few whispered about ancient weapons left by precursor races. Humanity's story became a tragedy overnight. Thousands of humans had been off-world when Earth vanished. They were spread across different stations, ships, and colonies. These survivors were now the last of their kind, stranded among aliens. The Council granted them refugee status and assistance, but nothing could fill the hole left by losing their home. The years passed slowly for the lost children of Terra. They tried to stay together at first, building small communities on alien worlds. But it was hard. They had no nation, no homeworld to return to, no unified culture anymore. Slowly, they scattered across the galaxy. Some humans thrived in their new lives. They became scientists, soldiers, artists, and traders. A few even earned respect among alien societies. But they were always marked as different. Always the species that lost everything. Their children grew up hearing stories about Earth. A beautiful blue world that existed only in memories and old recordings. Decades became centuries. The scattered humans had children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Each generation knew Earth a little less. The stories became fuzzy, the details unclear. Some young humans visited the dead zone where Sol used to be, standing in empty space and trying to feel a connection to ancestors they never knew. The Galactic Council erected a memorial at Earth's last known coordinates. It was a simple monument, really. a beacon that broadcast humanity's final message on repeat over and over into the void. Many species visited it, learning about the cautionary tale of the vanished civilization. By year 500, most humans had integrated fully into alien societies. By year 800, pure human bloodlines were rare. By year 1000, only a handful of people alive had known someone who actually remembered Earth. The lost children had become a historical footnote. Scattered genetic heritage spread thin across thousands of worlds. The galaxy moved on. New species joined the Council. Wars were fought and resolved. Technology advanced. Earth became a legend, a mystery studied by scholars but forgotten by most. The coordinates of the Sol system were marked on star charts with a simple note: Dead zone, former location of species 048, humans, disappeared, 2157. Nobody expected them to come back. 1,000 years after Earth vanished, the galaxy looked very different. The Galactic Council had grown from 47 species to 63. Peace had held for 3 consecutive centuries, a record that made historians proud. Trade routes connected thousands of worlds. Technology had advanced in ways the old council members would have found miraculous. It was, by all measures, a golden age. 3 major powers dominated galactic politics. The Zephyron hegemony controlled the largest military force, their warrior culture respected and feared across known space. The Qualry Consortium held the economic strings, their trading networks touching every civilized world. The Synthetic Collective represented billions of artificial intelligences who had gained full citizenship rights 200 years prior, scattered. Among these great civilizations lived about 50 million human descendants. Most of them carried only a fraction of human DNA, mixed with alien genetics over countless generations. They worked regular jobs, lived ordinary lives, and rarely thought about their ancient heritage. Being human meant very little in the modern galaxy. Ambassador Lyra Chen-Okonkwo was different. She was 7th generation, but her family had kept detailed records. She knew the old stories, spoke fragments of ancient languages, and had dedicated her life to representing human interests in the Council. It was a frustrating job. Most species viewed humans as having inferior genetics coming from primitive stock. Her voice in council meetings was often ignored. Lyra sat in her office on Council Station Prime reviewing reports. Another human settlement had been denied development rights. Another company had been caught paying human workers less than alien employees for the same job. Another colony had seen anti-human protests. She filed the complaints through proper channels, knowing nothing would change. It never did. Across the station, Admiral Kexthor of the Zephyron hegemony reviewed military reports. The Admiral was old by Zephyron standards. His scales faded and scarred from decades of service. He had fought in the border wars, commanded fleets in the synthetic uprising, and earned more medals than he could wear. He had also developed strong opinions about different species, including humans. Humans made poor soldiers in his view. They were weak, short-lived, and lacked the discipline of proper warrior cultures. That a few had succeeded in military service only proved they were exceptions. The hegemony allowed humans to serve, but rarely promoted them beyond junior ranks. Kexthor saw no problem with this arrangement. On the planet Qualris Prime, Dr. Van Alla worked in her laboratory surrounded by holographic displays. She was considered one of the galaxy's leading experts on dimensional physics. Her specialty was studying anomalies, impossible events that defied normal physics. Her favorite case was Earth. Van Alla had spent 20 years studying humanity's disappearance. She had reviewed every record, analyzed every sensor reading, and built complex models trying to explain what happened. Her conclusion differed from the accepted theory. She didn't believe Earth was destroyed. The energy pattern suggested something else, something intentional. A dimensional shift, perhaps, or a jump into some kind of pocket universe. Her colleagues thought she was obsessed. Maybe she was. Marcus Webb commanded a small mercenary ship called the Vagrant Star. He was human mostly, with some Zephyron modifications that let him survive higher gravity. He had fought in a dozen small wars, protected countless cargo ships, and earned a reputation for reliability. He was also bitter. Marcus had grown up hearing stories about humanity's potential, about how humans were just as good as any other species. Life had taught him differently. Every job was harder to get because of his heritage. Every contract paid less. Every client looked at him with subtle contempt. He had earned his success through blood and skill, and still most of the galaxy saw him as second-rate. He had dreamed of visiting Earth since he was a child. Even though it was gone, he wanted to see the place where his ancestors came from. He had saved money for years, planning an expedition to the Dead Zone. Other humans called him crazy. What was the point of visiting empty space? But Marcus needed to go. He needed to stand where Earth once stood and feel some connection to the home he never knew. The first warning signs appeared 3 months before everything changed. Automated probes near the Sol Dead Zone started transmitting strange data. These probes had been placed 900 years ago, part of the long-term monitoring project. They had been silent for centuries. Now they were all activating at once, sending readings that made no sense. Dr. Vanala saw the data immediately. Her monitoring programs flagged it as Priority 1. The energy signatures matched her models exactly. Something was happening in the Dead Zone. Something that looked exactly like the energy pattern from Earth's disappearance. She brought her findings to the Council. The response was disappointing. Council scientists reviewed her data and declared it an equipment malfunction. Old probes sending bad readings, nothing more. When Vanala insisted on sending a research team, she was denied. The Council had more important matters to address. The Dead Zone had been empty for a millennium. It would stay empty. Lyra heard about the readings through unofficial channels. She tried to push for investigation but hit political walls. The Zephyron hegemony blocked her motion, saying it was a waste of resources. The Qualry Consortium abstained from voting. The Synthetic Collective supported her, but they lacked enough votes to matter. The issue was closed. Marcus heard about it in a bar on a frontier station. A drunk scientist was complaining about how the Council ignored important discoveries. Marcus bought the scientist drinks and listened carefully. When he returned to his ship, he started making plans. If the Council wouldn't investigate, he would. He put out quiet calls to other humans, those crazy enough to join him. Within weeks, he had a small fleet. 5 ships, 32 crew members, all human or human descendants. They pooled their money, bought supplies, and filed flight plans that lied about their destination. They called themselves pilgrims going to visit the memorial. Nobody questioned it. The Council's long-range sensors detected something else, but the information was classified at the highest levels. Something massive was approaching the Dead Zone from the direction of empty intergalactic space. The readings were unclear, but whatever it was huge, and it was moving toward where Earth used to be. Different factions began moving toward the Sol sector, each with different goals. The Council sent a small observation fleet, just to confirm the probes were malfunctioning. The hegemony sent warships concerned about security. Marcus and his pilgrims jumped toward their ancestral home, and Dr. Vanala, ignoring all regulations, chartered a fast ship and followed. None of them knew they were about to witness the impossible. The Dead Zone looked exactly as it had for 1,000 years. Empty black space marked only by the memorial beacon broadcasting its endless message. Marcus Webb's small fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of the zone. His crew stared at the emptiness where their ancestors' home used to exist. Then space began to tear. It started as a ripple like disturbed water. Energy readings spiked across every spectrum. Marcus watched his sensors go crazy, showing numbers that shouldn't be possible. The ripple grew into a tear, and the tear expanded into a massive wound in reality itself. Light poured through, but it was wrong somehow, as if it came from somewhere that followed different rules. The Council observation fleet arrived seconds later, their sensors recording everything. Admiral Kexthor's battle group dropped out of FTL on the opposite side of the anomaly. Weapons ready. Dr. Vanala's chartered ship materialized nearby, her equipment capturing data she had dreamed of for 20 years. The tear in space expanded to the size of a solar system. Through it, something emerged. First came Mercury, looking exactly as historical records described it. Then Venus, but wrong. Venus was blue and green, clouds swirling over oceans that shouldn't exist. Then Earth itself slid back into reality. Every ship's crew fell silent. Earth was there, solid and real, exactly where it belonged. But it was surrounded by structures that made Council technology look primitive. Massive rings circled the planet, pulsing with controlled energy. The moon had similar structures. Mars appeared next, fully terraformed and green. Jupiter followed, its moons connected by a vast network of stations and transit systems. The entire solar system materialized over the course of 30 minutes. When it finished, the tear sealed itself and space returned to normal. Except nothing was normal anymore. The Sol system had returned, but it had brought impossibilities with it. Marcus couldn't speak. He had come to mourn at an empty grave. Instead, he was staring at Earth, alive and impossibly advanced. Around him, his crew members cried, laughed, or sat in stunned silence. Earth was home. Earth was back. The Council fleet tried to establish communication. At first, there was no response. Then every ship in the area received the same message simultaneously. It was simple, delivered in perfect galactic standard in 200 other languages. Humanity has returned. We request dialogue. Admiral Kexthor stared at his tactical displays. His systems were trying to analyze Earth's defenses and failing. The energy signatures were beyond anything in the hegemony's databases. Those rings around Earth weren't decorative. They were weapons, power generators, or both. His military instincts screamed danger. A single ship launched from Earth. It was small, elegant, and moved in ways that violated several laws of physics. It traveled the distance between Earth and the Council fleet in seconds without using any visible propulsion. When it stopped, it simply existed in a new location, as if it had always been there. The ship's hull was smooth, featureless, and seemed to absorb sensor scans. A communication channel opened. A human woman appeared on their screens. She looked to be in her 30s with dark skin and calm eyes that held ancient knowledge. She wore simple clothes that somehow seemed more advanced than any uniform in the fleet. "I am Director Sarah Okonkwo, speaking for Earth and humanity," she said. Her voice was warm but carried absolute confidence. "We apologize for any concern our return may have caused. We wish to establish peaceful relations with the Galactic Council." Ambassador Lyra Chen Okonkwo gasped when she heard the name. Okonkwo. Her own family name. This woman was either a distant relative or an impossible coincidence. She opened a channel from her ship. "This is Ambassador Lyra Chen Okonkwo, representing human descendants in the Council. We have waited 1,000 years for this moment." Sarah's expression softened slightly. "Yes, we know. We've been watching. We know what happened to those who were left behind. We know everything." Dr. Van Alla couldn't contain herself. She broadcast on an open channel. "Where did you go? How did you do this? The energy readings suggest dimensional displacement, but the scale is impossible. Please, I must know." Sarah smiled. "You're Dr. Van Alla. Your research has been impressive and you're correct. We didn't disappear, not exactly. We found something under Earth's ice, a device left by an ancient race. When we activated it, it created a pocket dimension. We had only seconds to decide. We chose to evacuate our entire solar system into this pocket space." "But why?" Admiral Kexthor demanded. "Why abandon the galaxy?" "We didn't abandon anything," Sarah replied, her tone sharpening. "We fled to survive and prepare. The device showed us a vision of what was coming. We had a choice, face it unprepared and die, or hide and use the time to advance. The pocket dimension had a different time flow. While 1,000 years passed in your universe, 50,000 years passed for us. The number hit everyone like a physical blow. 50,000 years. Earth hadn't been gone for a millennium from their perspective. They had lived through 50 millennia of history, development, and growth." Marcus found his voice. "What did you do for 50,000 years?" "We built paradise," Sarah answered simply. "We ended death, cured all disease, eliminated scarcity. We mastered energy, matter, and partially even time itself. We explored every branch of science and philosophy. We became what humanity always had the potential to be." She paused, letting that sink in. "But we also built weapons, defenses. We studied the threat that the ancient device warned us about. And we prepared to return because we knew the galaxy would need us." Admiral Kexthor studied his tactical displays again. His analysts were sending him urgent reports. Earth's technology was potentially thousands of years more advanced than anything in the galaxy. If they wanted to, they could probably conquer the entire Council. His hand moved closer to his weapons control. Sarah's image turned to look directly at him, as if she could see through the screen. "Admiral, I know what you're thinking. Your weapons are currently non-functional. We disabled them remotely the moment you considered using them. This isn't a threat. This is a demonstration. We don't want war. We want cooperation." Kexthor's blood ran cold. She had shut down his entire battle group's weapon systems without him noticing. His crew was frantically trying to restore function. Nothing worked. "We've been watching the galaxy through dimensional windows all this time," Sarah continued. "We know about the Council's expansion. We know about the wars, the peace treaties, the new species. We know about our descendants and how they've been treated. We know everything. Lyra felt tears running down her face. Earth had been watching. They knew about the discrimination, the struggles, the pain of being lost children, and they had come back. Humanity wishes to rejoin the Galactic Council, Sarah stated formally, but not as junior members. We demand full status recognition for both Earth and all human descendants scattered across the galaxy. We also request reparations and equal rights for all beings of human heritage. The council ships erupted in communication. Some argued for immediate compliance. Others called for resistance. A few suggested negotiation. The galaxy's power structure had just been shaken to its foundation. Sarah waited patiently as chaos spread across communication channels. Then she spoke again, and her voice cut through every argument. We're not asking permission. We're informing you of reality. Humanity has returned. We've brought gifts of technology and knowledge. But we've also brought a warning. The threat that drove us into hiding is still coming. It will arrive in approximately 50 of your years. When it does, you'll need us. And if we refuse your terms, Admiral Kexthor asked, his pride wounded but his tactical mind still working. Then you face the coming darkness alone, Sarah replied. And you will lose. We've seen it happen in thousands of simulations. Without us, the galaxy falls. With us, there's a chance. The choice is yours to make. She terminated the communication, leaving every ship in stunned silence. Marcus stared at Earth through his view screen. He had come looking for a grave. Instead, he found humanity had become something magnificent and terrifying. He wasn't sure if he should feel proud or afraid. Dr. Venala was already analyzing the data, her mind racing with implications. Lyra was trying to organize a response from the council. Admiral Kexthor was considering his options, all of which looked bad. And on Earth, Sarah Okonkwo turned to her colleagues and said simply, "It's begun. Now we see if they're smart enough to listen." The Galactic Council chamber had never been this chaotic. Ambassadors from 63 species shouted over each other in dozens of languages. Translation systems struggled to keep up. Security officers stood nervously at the doors, unsure if they should intervene or flee. 3 days had passed since Earth's return. 3 days of non-stop debate, argument, and political maneuvering. The Council had fractured into 3 main groups. One faction wanted to accept Earth's terms immediately. Another demanded resistance to human demands. The third, smallest group suggested ignoring Earth entirely and hoping they would go away. Lyra stood at the human delegation's position, exhausted. She had barely slept since Earth returned. Scattered human descendants from across the galaxy were arriving on Council Station, all demanding answers. Some wanted to go to Earth immediately. Others were terrified of what their ancestors had become. A few angry ones blamed Earth for abandoning them in the first place. The Zephron hegemony had called an emergency military council. Admiral Kexthor sat at the head of the table, surrounded by generals and strategic analysts. Display screens showed Earth's defenses, or rather, showed the holes in their knowledge. Every scan revealed new impossibilities. "We must consider Earth an existential threat," General Vaxcor declared. His scales were deep red, marking him as a traditional warrior. "They possess technology beyond our understanding. They can disable our weapons remotely. They claim to have watched us for a millennium. This is unacceptable." Kexthor studied the tactical reports. His pride wanted to agree. His experience told him otherwise. "And what do you propose?" "Every analysis says we cannot win a direct conflict. Even if we united the entire hegemony fleet, Earth could destroy us without launching a single ship." "Then we build alliances," Vaxcor insisted. "The Qualry have economic leverage. The synthetics have computational power. Together we might match Earth's strength. Or," Kexthor said slowly, "we could consider that Earth might be telling the truth. What if there really is a threat coming? What if they really do want to help?" The room fell silent. Suggesting cooperation with Earth bordered on heresy and hegemony military circles. But Kexthor hadn't survived 50 years of warfare by being stupid. Sometimes the smartest move was not fighting at all. The Qualry Consortium took a different approach. They saw opportunity. If Earth had technology thousands of years advanced, trade agreements could make the consortium wealthy beyond imagination. Economic analysts worked day and night creating proposals for Earth's consideration. Dr. Venala barely noticed any of the politics. She had been granted permission to visit Earth. A human shuttle had picked her up and brought her down to the planet's surface. What she saw there broke her understanding of reality. Cities floated in the sky, held up by controlled gravity fields. Forests grew in impossible patterns, genetically designed for perfect beauty and efficiency. The oceans teemed with life, both natural and created. And the people moved with casual grace, enhanced bodies never tiring. Enhanced minds processing information at incredible speeds. Her guide was a young man named James, who explained he was only 30 years old but had already lived 6 different lifetimes. Death was optional on Earth. When bodies wore out, consciousness could be transferred to new ones. Age was a choice, not a fate. "This is paradise," Vanilla whispered, watching children play in a park where trees grew in spirals and flowers sang in harmonies. "It took us 40,000 years to build," James replied. "The first 10,000 were hard. We had wars, disasters, mistakes, but we learned, we grew, and eventually we became this." On Council Station, Earth forced the issue. Admiral Kexthor had decided to test them with a show of force. He assembled a battle fleet, 50 warships, and positioned them in Earth orbit. It wasn't an attack officially, just a demonstration of hegemony strength, a reminder that the Council had power too. Earth's response was terrifyingly simple. Every weapon system on every ship simply stopped working. Missiles wouldn't launch. Energy weapons wouldn't charge. Even kinetic railguns seized up, their mechanisms frozen. The fleet drifted helplessly in orbit, completely defenseless. Then Earth broadcast a message to every inhabited world in the galaxy, simultaneously. Billions of beings watched Director Sarah Okonkwo appear on their screens. "People of the galaxy, we are humanity returned. Some of your leaders fear us. They see our strength and worry about conquest. Let us be clear, we don't seek dominance. We seek our place among equals. We disabled the hegemony fleet to prove a point. If we wanted war, the war would already be over. Instead, we offer friendship, technology, and a warning about the future." The broadcast showed images of the threat Earth had mentioned. Dark ships that consumed matter for fuel, spreading clouds of self-replicating machines, entire planets reduced to dust in hours. The Devourers, as Earth called them, were coming from beyond the galaxy. "They will arrive in 50 years, Sarah continued. "They have consumed 3 galaxies before ours. They cannot be reasoned with, cannot be stopped with conventional weapons, and cannot be escaped. You have 2 choices. Work with us to prepare or face them alone and die. We don't make these claims to scare you. We tell you because it's the truth." The broadcast ended. The galaxy erupted in panic, disbelief, and argument. Some claimed Earth was lying, fabricating a threat to gain power. Others pointed out that Earth had no reason to lie. If they wanted control, they already had the power to take it. Marcus Webb watched the broadcast from his ship, which was still parked near Earth. Around him, his crew debated going down to the planet. Many wanted to. A few refused, saying Earth had abandoned them and they owed it nothing. Marcus himself felt torn. An invitation had come from Earth requesting his presence. They knew who he was, knew his reputation, and wanted to meet him. Part of him was curious. Part of him was angry. Earth had spent 50,000 years building paradise while their descendants suffered. What right did they have to claim kinship now? Ambassador Lyra decided to visit Earth without permission from the Council. She took a human shuttle down to the surface, her heart pounding with every kilometer. When she landed, Sarah Okonkwo herself greeted her. "Ambassador Chen Okonkwo," Sarah said warmly. "Welcome home." "This isn't my home," Lyra replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "My home is the station where I was born. This is my ancestors' home." "Then let us show you what your ancestors built," Sarah said gently. She led Lyra through the city, showing her museums dedicated to remembering the lost children. Every human descendant who had died in the past millennium had a memorial. Earth had been watching, recording, remembering. Lyra broke down crying in front of a wall covered with names. Her grandmother's name was there. Her mother's. Even hers marked as living, serving. They hadn't forgotten. They had never forgotten. "Why didn't you come back sooner?" Lyra asked through her tears. "We couldn't," Sarah replied sadly. The pocket dimension was stable, but leaving it required specific conditions. We had to wait for the dimensional walls to thin naturally. We came back as soon as we physically could. And we came back prepared to protect everyone, including you. That evening, Lyra was offered what Earth called the enhancement. It was voluntary, they stressed. She could extend her life, increase her mental capabilities, and connect to Earth's network. She could become what humanity had evolved into, or she could remain as she was, still welcomed and valued. Lyra thought about her grandmother, who had died young from a disease that Earth could now cure in seconds. She thought about the struggles she had faced, the discrimination, the exhaustion of fighting for human rights. She thought about what she could accomplish with more time, more capability. She accepted the enhancement. Marcus finally agreed to visit Earth. He met with Sarah and other Earth leaders in a council chamber that overlooked the Pacific Ocean. They offered him command of Joint Human Council military operations. They needed someone who understood both Earth technology and galactic politics. Why me? Marcus demanded. I'm nobody special. Just a mercenary who survived longer than most. You're a survivor, Sarah replied. You've earned everything you have through skill and determination. Your people respect you, both Earth humans and descendants. You're perfect for bridging our two groups. And if I refuse, then you refuse. We don't force anyone. But Marcus, a war is coming. We need warriors who understand what's at stake. We need you. Marcus looked out at Earth, this impossible paradise built while his ancestors suffered. He thought about the discrimination he had faced, the struggles, the pain. Part of him wanted to refuse out of spite, but a larger part recognized the truth. If the threat was real, personal grudges didn't matter. I'll do it, he said finally. But I don't want your enhancements. I'll fight as I am, Sarah smiled. That's acceptable. Sometimes baseline humanity has advantages our enhanced versions lack. Welcome to the Alliance, Captain Webb. Over the following weeks, the galaxy slowly accepted reality. The Council formally recognized Earth as a full member. Treaties were signed. Technology began flowing from Earth to other species. Human descendants across the galaxy celebrated, mourned, or tried to process the changes. And in the depths of intergalactic space, something vast and hungry detected the sudden burst of activity from the Milky Way galaxy. The Devourers turned their attention toward this new feeding ground and increased their speed. The clock was tick. The first year after Earth's return was marked by denial. Despite the warning, despite the evidence Earth provided, many Council species refused to believe the threat was real. It was too convenient, they argued. Earth returns with impossible technology and immediately claims the galaxy needs them? Clearly a manipulation tactic. The Zephyron hegemony led the skeptics. A faction within their government, led by General Vaxicor, began forming an anti-Earth coalition. 6 other species joined them, united by fear of human power more than belief in Earth's honesty. They held secret meetings and planned for a galaxy where Earth was the enemy, not the savior. Ambassador Lyra, now enhanced and serving as the primary bridge between Earth and the Council, spent exhausting months in political negotiations. Her new mental capabilities helped her process thousands of documents, understand complex political relationships, and predict negotiation outcomes. But they couldn't change fundamental fear and pride. Marcus Webb had thrown himself into his new role with determination. Earth had given him command of a joint task force, 5 Earth ships and 20 vessels from various Council species. It was a test, proving that integrated fleets could work. The training was brutal. Council species had to learn Earth tactics, which relied on technology they barely understood. Earth crew members had to learn patience with those less advanced. Dr. Vanala worked with Earth scientists, studying the data about the Devourers. The more she learned, the more terrified she became. These entities weren't just aggressive. They were efficient beyond belief, consuming entire civilizations and converting the matter into more Devourers. They had perfected the art of extinction. Then the Vanguard arrived. It happened without warning. A small fleet of Devourer ships appeared at the edge of the galaxy, in a remote system called Petra 7. The colony there had 60 million inhabitants of the Relan species. They detected the strange ships and sent first contact greetings, assuming they were an unknown civilization. The Devourers didn't respond with words. They descended on Petra 7 like locusts. Their ships released clouds of nanomachines that consumed everything they touched. Buildings dissolved into raw atoms. Ships trying to escape were enveloped and broken down. Living beings were harvested for their complex molecules. Within 6 hours, Petra 7 was gone. The planet was still there, but stripped to bedrock. 60 million people had become fuel for the Devourer fleet, which was now twice as large as when it arrived. The galaxy watched the recordings in horror. Council emergency sessions were called. The anti-Earth coalition crumbled overnight. This wasn't a fabricated threat. This was real, and it was worse than Earth had described. Admiral Kexthor mobilized the entire hegemony fleet. The Council authorized military action. Every species began preparing for war. But when fleets arrived at Petra 7's location, they found an enemy that defied all combat doctrine. Kexthor led the attack personally. 200 warships against 20 Devourer vessels. It should have been easy. It was a massacre. Energy weapons hit the Devourer ships, and the ships adapted, developing immunity within seconds. Missiles were consumed in flight, turned into more nanomachines. Kinetic weapons passed through shifting hulls that became insubstantial at impact. The Devourer ships fought back with weapons that unmade matter at the atomic level. Shields meant nothing. Armor meant nothing. 20 Council ships were destroyed in the first 5 minutes. Kexthor ordered a retreat, his pride shattered and half his fleet crippled or destroyed. Then Earth's fleet arrived. Marcus Webb commanded the vanguard, 5 human ships moving in perfect coordination. They fought differently. Their weapons didn't just destroy, they rewrote local physics. Beams that made matter incompatible with the Devourer's adaptive systems. Missiles that created bubbles of altered space-time. Shields that existed partially in other dimensions. The Devourer ships tried to adapt. For the first time in their existence, they couldn't. Earth's technology operated on principles that broke the Devourer's evolutionary algorithms. Within an hour, all 20 enemy ships were destroyed, converted to inert particles that drifted harmlessly through space. The galaxy watched Marcus Webb's tactical recordings over and over. Only Earth technology had worked. Only human weapons could fight the Devourers. The political implications were immediate and absolute. Within a week, every Council species formally requested Earth's protection. The anti-Earth coalition dissolved completely. General Vaxcor himself appeared before the Council and publicly apologized for doubting humanity. The vote was unanimous. Earth would lead the galactic defense. Lyra stood before the Council, now speaking with full authority. Earth accepts this responsibility, but we cannot do it alone. We need your help, your resources, your people. We need a true alliance, not subjects and rulers. Are you ready to work with us as equals? Every ambassador stood and signaled agreement. For the first time in galactic history, all 63 species were united in purpose. What followed were 40 years of desperate preparation. Earth shared their technology, but it was difficult. Their science was so advanced that even explaining the basics took years. They had to essentially uplift the entire galaxy centuries in a single generation. Dr. Van Alla led the scientific integration teams. Earth couldn't just give away finished products. Other species needed to understand the principles, or they'd never be able to maintain or improve the technology. She worked with thousands of alien scientists, teaching them physics that broke their previous understanding of reality. Entire planets were converted to manufacturing centers. Earth provided templates for weapons, shields, and ships that could fight the Devourers. The Qualry Consortium's economic networks proved invaluable, coordinating production across thousands of worlds. The synthetic collective's processing power helped run simulations, preparing for every possible attack scenario. Marcus trained fleet commanders from dozens of species. Many struggled with Earth's tactics, which required thinking in ways that felt wrong. Fighting the Devourers meant abandoning traditional concepts of warfare. It meant accepting losses, making sacrifices, and trusting technology you didn't fully understand. Admiral Kexthor became Marcus's closest ally. The old warrior threw himself into learning, his pride replaced by grim determination. He had seen his fleet destroyed once. He would not let it happen again. He and Marcus formed an unlikely friendship, the human mercenary and the Zephyron admiral, united by shared purpose. Human descendants across the galaxy were transformed by Earth's return. Many accepted enhancements, becoming part of Earth's network. Others chose to remain baseline, serving as bridges between the enhanced and non-enhanced. A few struggled with identity issues, caught between what they were and what they could become. Marcus remained stubbornly baseline. He accepted some minor modifications, things that let him survive extreme environments, but he refused mental enhancements or life extension. When people asked why, he simply said he wanted to stay himself. As the years passed, the galaxy changed. Defensive lines were established across multiple star systems. Entire planets became fortress worlds, covered in weapon emplacements and shield generators. Civilian populations were trained in evacuation procedures. Every species contributed what they could to the alliance. Earth revealed more of their capabilities as time passed. They had built more than weapons in their 50,000 years. They had created the Architect's Cradle, a device built from the same precursor technology that had let them escape originally. It was their ultimate weapon, capable of rewriting the fundamental laws of physics across entire sectors of space. Dr. Vainala studied the cradle with mixture of awe and terror. "This could change the nature of reality itself," she told Sarah Okonkwo during one inspection. "It's godlike power." "Yes," Sarah agreed quietly. "And using it will require a terrible price. We hope it never comes to that." 38 years after the Vanguard attack, long-range sensors detected the main Devourer fleet. The readings were analyzed, checked, and checked again. Analysts hoped they were wrong. They weren't. The fleet was enormous. Thousands of ships, maybe tens of thousands. They had consumed 3 entire galaxies, growing larger with each civilization they destroyed. And they were headed directly for the Milky Way's core systems, where most of the galaxy's population lived. The Council called an emergency session. Lyra presented Earth's battle plan. It was complex, risky, and required perfect coordination. Every species would need to commit everything they had. There would be massive casualties. Many worlds would fall before the Devourers could be stopped. "And if we fail?" one ambassador asked. "Then everything ends," Lyra replied simply. "The Devourers will consume this galaxy as they've consumed others. Every world, every species, every individual will be harvested and converted. There is no negotiation, no mercy, no second chances." The vote was called. Every species committed their full military strength to the Alliance. Even those too weak to fight offered their planets as refugee centers or manufacturing hubs. The galaxy had become one civilization, united against extinction. Marcus stood on his ship's bridge. Why? The Devourer main fleet entered the galaxy like a plague. They appeared simultaneously across 100 star systems, emerging from faster-than-light travel in perfect coordination. Their strategy was clear: divide the Alliance forces and consume everything before effective resistance could form. 3 worlds fell in the first week. The planet Helios 9 sent desperate transmissions as Devourer ships descended. The broadcasts showed nanomachine clouds consuming cities, people running and screaming. Then silence. 15 billion lives ended in 6 hours. The next world fell faster. They were learning, adapting, becoming more efficient with every meal. The Alliance fought back with everything they had. Marcus Webb commanded the Central Defense Fleet, 3,000 ships from 20 different species. They engaged the Devourer forces near the Qualry homeworld, determined to hold the line. The battle was brutal beyond anything the galaxy had experienced. Earth weapons worked, but the Devourers adapted faster than predicted. Each engagement required new tactics, new weapons, new strategies. Marcus pushed his crews to their limits, coordinating attacks across light minutes of space, trying to stay ahead of the enemy's evolution. Admiral Kexthor held the northern front with the hegemony's full might. His warriors fought with desperate courage, buying time for civilian evacuations. He lost 3 ships for every Devourer they destroyed, but he never retreated. When subordinates suggested falling back to better positions, he refused. "We retreat, they follow," Kexthor said grimly. "We hold, others live." It's simple mathematics. On the 5th day of battle, Kexthor's flagship was surrounded. 17 Devourer vessels converged on his position. His shields were failing, his weapons depleted. He could have ordered evacuation, could have saved his crew. Instead, he aimed his ship at the largest Devourer vessel and engaged maximum thrust. His last transmission was broadcast across the entire Alliance fleet. For the future, for all species, for humanity who showed us the way. The flagship struck the Devourer ship at near light speed, the impact releasing energy equivalent to a small star. The explosion destroyed both ships and crippled 5 others nearby. The Alliance forces used the opening to counterattack, driving the Devourers back temporarily. Marcus received the news of Kexthor's death in the middle of coordinating another engagement. He felt something break inside him, grief mixed with rage. The old admiral had become a friend, one of the few people who truly understood what they were fighting for. "All ships, this is Captain Webb," Marcus broadcast. "Admiral Kexthor just gave his life to save a human colony. A Zephyron warrior died protecting humanity. Let that sink in." We're not separate species anymore. We're one alliance, one people, and we're going to win this war for him." The fleet responded with renewed determination, but privately Marcus knew they were losing. The Devourers were too many, too adaptable. Earth's technology helped, but it wasn't enough. Every day brought new casualties, new losses, new failures. Dr. Venala worked frantically in Earth's orbital laboratories, trying to find weaknesses in the Devourer systems. She had learned more about their biology and technology than any non-human scientist. The answer was there, she knew it. They just needed time to find it. They didn't have time. By the third week, the Devourers had consumed 27 worlds. Billions were dead. Whole civilizations had been erased. The Alliance was being pushed back on all fronts. Ambassador Lyra coordinated the largest evacuation in galactic history. Thousands of transport ships moved civilians from threatened worlds to safe zones deeper in the galaxy. Every refugee represented a species that would survive, but also a home that was lost. The losses were breaking her heart, even with her enhanced mental resilience. On day 22, Earth called an emergency meeting of all Alliance leaders. Director Sarah Okonkwo appeared on screens across the galaxy, her expression grave. "We're losing," she said bluntly. "The Devourers adapt faster than we can create new weapons. At current rates, the galaxy will fall within 4 months. We have one option left, the Architect's Cradle." Silence greeted her words. Everyone knew about the Cradle, Earth's ultimate weapon, the device that could rewrite reality itself. "The Cradle will alter the fundamental physics of this entire galactic sector," Sarah explained. "We can make local space-time incompatible with the Devourers' exotic biology and technology. They'll destabilize and dissolve. The war will end. What's the cost?" Lyra asked, though she suspected she knew. "The strain of rewriting physics across such a vast area is immense," Sarah replied. "It requires an anchor, something to stabilize the new laws of nature. Earth will serve as that anchor. The planet and everyone on it will merge with the Cradle, becoming part of the device itself. We'll exist in a semi-physical state, conscious but transformed. It's a one-way process," the galaxy reeled from the revelation. Earth was offering to sacrifice itself again to save everyone else. Marcus spoke up from his flagship. "There has to be another way. We can't ask you to do this." "You're not asking," Sarah said gently. "We're volunteering. It's what we've prepared for since we returned. This was always a possibility. Our people have voted. 78% agree this is the right choice. We're ready." The council was called to vote. Should they accept Earth's sacrifice? The debate lasted 6 hours. Some argued Earth was too valuable to lose. Others said refusing their offer dishonored their courage. A few asked if there were truly no alternatives. In the end, the vote was passed to the individual species. Each had to decide for their own people. One by one, ambassadors stood and gave their answer. Yes, 63 species and 63 agreements. Earth's sacrifice would be accepted. The Cradle was activated 3 days later. Earth became the center of a massive energy network, drawing power from every star in the sector. The planet began to glow, not with heat but with restructured space-time itself. Lyra stood in the council chamber, tears streaming down her face as she watched Earth transform. Around her, beings from across the galaxy wept or performed their equivalent rituals. Humans who had accepted enhancement felt the pull, sensing their connection to Earth intensifying. Those who had remained baseline felt it too, a phantom ache of something slipping away. Billions of people on Earth stood calmly, accepting their fate. They had lived full lives, some for thousands of years. They had built paradise, solved death, and created wonders. Now they would become something new, something eternal. They faced it without fear. Sarah Okonkwo's last broadcast reached every device in the galaxy. "People of the stars, this is our choice and our honor. We disappeared once to prepare for this moment. Now we anchor reality itself so you can thrive. Remember us. Remember that when humanity decides something matters, we give everything. Live well, live freely, and carry forward." The Cradle reached full power. Energy waves rippled outward from Earth, spreading across the sector in pulses that moved faster than light. Where the waves passed, the laws of physics shifted subtly. Matter reorganized itself into new stable configurations. Space-time adopted different properties. The Devourer ships began to fail. Their adaptive systems couldn't handle physics that fundamentally rejected their existence. Nanomachines fell apart. Biological components dissolved. Their ships destabilized and broke into harmless particles. Across the entire sector, thousands of Devourer vessels simply ceased to exist. Marcus watched from his bridge as the enemy fleet disintegrated. Around him, his crew cheered, cried, and held each other. They had won. The cost was terrible, but they had won. Earth itself transformed over the course of hours. The planet remained, but changed. It existed partially in normal space and partially in dimensions humans couldn't perceive. It glowed with constant light, a beacon visible from anywhere in the galaxy. And it was conscious, aware, thinking on scales that transcended individual minds. Dr. Van Alla tried to communicate with Earth after the transformation. She sent messages and received responses, but they were strange. Earth spoke with a collective voice now. Billions of consciousnesses merged, but still individual. They were happy, they said. This was not death, but evolution. They could perceive time differently, see possibilities, and protect the galaxy in ways impossible before. The war ended within a week. Devourer forces outside the affected sector tried to adapt and failed. Earth's new nature actively rejected them, creating zones where their biology simply couldn't function. The survivors fled back into intergalactic space, driven away by the living lighthouse humanity had become. The galaxy celebrated, mourned, and rebuilt. The Council was restructured, now called the Alliance of Free Species. Humanity's descendants took leadership roles across every aspect of society. They had earned respect through sacrifice that could never be erased. Marcus Webb retired to a colony world, finally allowing himself to rest. He was offered enhancement, offered command positions, offered everything. He refused them all. He wanted peace, a small home, and time to remember friends who had died. Lyra became the Alliance's first chancellor, leading the galaxy into a new era. She remained enhanced, using her abilities to coordinate reconstruction and establish fair laws. She visited Earth's transformed state regularly, speaking with the collective consciousness that had once been her distant ancestors.